out of a raise of hands, who here has a job right now? Okay, hands down. Who out of you, the light is very bright, who out of you feels so enthralled by the principles and ethics and believes in their workplace so much that on a Monday morning you're ecstatic to get up to work? And here I don't mean half-heartedly, I mean like Frodo when he's in that room with the dwarves and the elves and the humans, and the dwarves aren't taking it, the dwarves don't want the elves to take it, the humans are taking the ring but they don't want to go to Mordor, and Frodo steps up and says, I'm in. Okay, second raise of hands, who here is studying and is excited to furiously get into the working world and find a job? That's actually a surprising lot of you. Third, who knows that whether they like it or not, unless you're the heir to the Carlos Slim fortune or something similar, that at some point you're going to have to get a job and make an income? Everybody should be putting up their hands there. Okay. Next, and this is me and this is a selfie. Who out of you gets out of bed every morning to go to work or to studying or to whatever you're doing with an almost neat mixture of stomach grinding anxiety and sheer excitement, knowing that what you're going to do is exactly what you're meant to be doing, is exactly what you believe in, and even on the bad days, and everybody has bad days, I have very bad days, that even if there is another option, there's no other option. Go you guys. Okay. So, before I tell you a little bit about myself and delve into my idea worth sharing, I want to tell you two things. One, I'm not a yes man. There's a lot to say no to, and I say no to a lot in the world. Second, I'm not a job counselor or a therapist, although I do seem to need the latter much more often these days, so shout out to my therapist, my psychiatrist. My dad's in the audience. If you are the therapist somewhere that we're trying to get a hold of, please answer your phone. Next, my journey. So before I kind of get into my idea, I want to tell you what I've done. At the end of 2013, myself and Jean-Marc Lenferner, my partner, founded Inside and You're Out, which was to be a mobile burger stall that sold something super tasty that was about a whole lot more. This is us. Okay. We're now a 50-seater restaurant in a very hopping part of Cape Town. And we honestly couldn't be happier. We're scared, but we couldn't be happier. So before I get into the rest of the speech, I'm going to show you pictures of our food, because I find that even if my speech isn't interesting, people kind of pay attention. I think they think that hamburgers are going to fall from the sky or something. This is one of our burgers, and quickly the kind of point of difference is that we open up each patty, stuff it with something different, cheeses, cashew nuts, whatever, close it up and cook it like that, and it comes out something like that. Okay. So my journey, I studied advertising. I went to advertising school, and halfway through my second year, it was a 3-year degree, I got a little bit disillusioned by advertising. I felt like I was churning in information in the hope that some advertising agency would realize that I could spit it out fast enough to run their relay. Like I was working for someone who was working for someone else, who was working for someone else, who was sitting in the Bahamas sipping a coconut drink or a pina colada, which I don't even like, with super hot babes in the background right over there, there's 2 of them, with a bunch of Learjets and having the greatest time of his life. On one hand, I want those things, and on the other hand, I just didn't think it was something I believed in. I didn't know what I was kind of studying to learn to sell dishwashing powder or kind of spreads for toast for. So in true Jonah spirit, I worked harder, something I've always been taught. I don't know, Dad, if it was as vocal or kind of just under the covers, was that if I was going to do something, my family has always backed me, but if I do it, I must do it, and I must do it well. And so I never thought of quitting, okay? And I was kind of going through the self-discovery phase, and I came across the following 2 questions. What do you believe? Click, click, click. And what are you going to do about it? So I finished varsity at the end of my third year, and I furiously started looking for a job. I got a job at an ad agency, and I walked into the ad agency, and I met the creative director in his kind of cubicle, which was a bit bigger than the cubicle next to his, the guy next to him. And he had super suave, like spiky hair, and he had nice jeans, and he had pretty Cape Townish shoes for like an advertising agency. And he told me that I would be doing this and that, and he took me around the advertising agency, and he took me downstairs. I was to be on floor 1 out of floor 3 of the advertising agency, and he showed me my desk, and he showed me my MacBook Pro that they just purchased for me, which I wish I had now because my PowerPoint would have taken a quarter of the time. And he introduced me to my neighbor Susie, and I said, "Hi, Susie." And he told me that this was where I was going to be working for the next 2 years, or however long, maybe in 6 months I could get a promotion or something like that. With those two questions in mind, I ran for the hills. Okay, I didn't actually run out of the advertising agency, but I was like, very cool, I'll get the MacBook Pro tomorrow. Nice to meet you, Susie. See you guys tomorrow. Okay. So I went home, and like any good Jewish boy, I spoke to my mother, and I spoke to my father, and I wrote him an email, this creative director with the suave hair and the nice shoes, and I said to him, because I was too scared of a phone call, because he was quite excited about me coming there, I said to him, "Hello. Unfortunately, I have to retract my interests. Jonah has to face the big bad world alone. Kind regards." He was very upset. So, what do I believe in? So at the same time that I was going through kind of my self-discovery and figuring out where I fitted into the advertising world, I went to a seminar very much like this on marine biology and ocean conservation. Okay? And you know, I was looking for something to hold on to, really. I needed like a purpose and a thing to hold on to. And like the thing you just watched about being a multi-potentialite, I want to be 100 different things. I really do. And I watched a talk about biomimicry, where they copy natural things like using shark skin to make antibacterial baby dummies and stuff like that, and I was like, what could I do? And then a thing about how we need sharks to survive, and we all think the great white shark is a terrible thing, but we need sharks to survive, and they track them around the world, and I was like, I'm jumping on a shark. And then a talk about the plastic bag, and this became my thing, about the misuse of the plastic bag and how it affects our oceans, it affects turtles, and it affects the entire world. And since that day, which was in 2012, I haven't used a plastic bag. Yay! Okay. And I visited a lot of landfills. I decided to angle all of my varsity work at environmental messaging and how to send good messages that made a difference. I visited a lot of landfills, and food waste started to interest me, and I found out something very interesting. Now, over here, you can see the food waste in the Americas, or North America. While there is a big thing in production, and for the purpose of explanation, just know that production in both of the graphs that you're going to see is before the food is edible. So it's to do with natural disasters, crops getting destroyed, all of that. So that's actually not what I'm talking about. Their big thing is in consumption, 39%. So it's receiving a plate of food, not finishing it, pouring off, and 39% of the food that goes out is wasted on consumer side. Unlike that, Sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa, our big thing is in handling and storage. And I thought to myself, what the hell is going on here? The fact is, we have these beautiful farmers and this beautiful food that is edible and ready, and we have so many starving people in the country, and we have so many people that are food insecure, but we just can't get our stuff from A to B. That's the problem. So I decided to investigate. I went to farmers around the Western Cape. I met really beautiful people with products that I promise you cannot get in any supermarket or place right here. I went to abattoirs, which were absolutely unbelievably hectic, but clean, but they did know I was coming. I scanned Google for days on end, and never underestimate the power of Google, which I think a few of the talks will touch on. And I came back to Cape Town and I proposed the idea of a mobile burger store to Jean-Marc. That was about the following 4 things, very briefly. Delicious foods is about getting fresh supply daily, good ingredients, fresh supply daily, which is actually quite a rare thing in the restaurant trade. Local community was about working with local suppliers only to get that local produce to market. Environmental impact was about being as friendly to the environment as we could in our business practice, not only to the earth, but being environmentally friendly to people, because environmental marketing is very pushy. And we wanted to say, this is how you can do it in an easy way without feeling like you have to go entirely out of your way. And ethical accessibility, which is our kind of thing and is what we're about. Accessibility from farm to table. This means accessibility for the supplier and for the consumer. For the supplier in the way that the bigger we get, if we do, the bigger they get, and the easier it is for them to get their product to market. For the consumer, the bigger we get, the more we can push down the price of organic foods and the wider amount of people it is available to. Okay? So we as humans are problem solvers and very good ones at that. Whether you want to work for an accounting firm, for a bank, for a supermarket, or for a burger business, we are innovators. And what I want to say is that the person at the top of the food chain, no matter how in big business, the vision often gets lost. And what I want to say is that the person at the top of the food chain started with a vision and started with a belief. So what I want you guys to do is to go home and ask yourself these 2 questions. What do you believe, and what are you going to do about it? The system is not the problem. The way we understand it is. I see so many ideas of escapism in people of my age that they don't, they want to fight the system and they don't want to work. And in the last week, I've seen 10 examples of, people that don't enjoy what they're studying, that don't want to get up on a Monday for work. I see Facebook posts about, it's like the most popular thing ever to say that you don't want to get up on a Monday for work and all of that. But I'm here to tell you that it is not really the rat race it seems. There's actually quite a nice side to it. Embrace anxiety. I'm a very anxious person, and what I'm about to tell you is you have to understand that what I and Jean-Marc do is very scary. I'm scared a lot, and the thing you have to understand is that it's easy to fit into the working world, but taking this risk does not change. It doesn't become less of a risk when you're 45. It doesn't become more of a risk when you're 23. And the anxiety doesn't die down. You're going to feel as anxious. So it's important to take these risks. And, I've gone through stomach ulcers in the last 2 years. I've gone through stomach ulcers. I've got a hiatus hernia, but it apparently doesn't do anything. It just sits there, so I'm actually fine. And I've gone through schedule 4, 5, 6, 7 anxiety pills, psychiatrist, psychologist, you name it. And I sat down. I went to the doctor, just a GP, and if you could personify the word wise, this guy would be it. And he's been my family doctor since I was basically born, I guess. He wears his glasses down on his nose. He talks to you out of one eye. And he never says anything that he is not meant to say. He just says exactly what he needs to say. And I said to the doctor, Doctor, I'm a little bit scared of the anxiety meds that my psychiatrist has given me, because I have a family history of people that have been addicted to these meds, and I don't want to be like that, and I want to sort it out. And he kind of played with his stethoscope a bit, and then, because I thought I had a throat infection, it was probably in my mind, he played with the stethoscope a bit, and then tilted his glasses down, and looked at me with one eye, and said to me, Jonah, you can do that for now, but at some point, and you need to know this now, is that you have to embrace anxiety. Because anxiety is what makes you look left and right across the road. And anxiety is what makes you get up in the morning. So embrace anxiety. So I'm going to explain something called creative destruction to you. It is an economic term, but I'm not an economist. It's something my father explained to me, and I've kind of adapted it to Jonah terms. What this is about is saying that we as humans are problem solvers. We are innovators. And while you think the system is such a rat race and you have to work into it and, stand in line, and while Business X would way rather you work for Business X than sit in your garage and create snacks, okay? It's not about that. You have the rat race on one side, like this, that goes and goes and goes, and you take less risk and you go into that. But what you actually have to see is that it's a constant wheel of innovation, and you have to do that. What innovation does is that it forces businesses to work more, it forces them to work harder, it forces them to imitate, innovate, or die out. Think of the taxi industry. Think of the big technological change, arguably the biggest technological change in the last 100 years. The kind of current players had a huge revolt, arrested people, banned it in some country, but either they're going to have to imitate, innovate, or die out. And so what creative destruction is, and what the capitalist system is about, is not necessarily about falling in line, but it's about exploding into the system and getting into that wheel of innovation. And it's not easy, the wheel of innovation. It's a lot faster than the rat cage, but it's a different way to look at it. So what I ask you to see is see innovation, not money, as a critical dimension of economic change, not only personally, but also on a world scale. Innovation starts with you. It starts with a belief, and it starts with understanding what you want to do and understanding a problem and working at it like a mad scientist. And I ask you to, instead of thinking, of buying a t-shirt that says money doesn't buy happiness, or going against the whole system and thinking that, money is this evil thing, rather see what you want to do and see money and profit as not the driver, but the necessary consequence of innovation and journey. One of our main investors, who invests in tech primarily, said to my father last year when he was very excited about, because he liked the New York burger stalls and all of that, he said, I'm definitely investing in this. And what he said to my father is, differentiating in tech is one thing, but differentiating, innovating in the field of hamburgers is another thing entirely. Woo! So start with a belief, not a job interview. So imagine yourself as a plant. A plant starts as a seed, is planted into soil, into the world. At the very least, you're given the sun and the moon. With the sun and the moon alone, some plants grow, but others don't. Some plants don't due to external factors, but most seeds grow. Like hours, like seconds, like time, they go, they rise and fall, and over again they go. How you grow depends very much on the soil that you're exposed to and exist in. And like humans, the most empathetic and intelligent plants work with the soil to eventually flower and fulfill the reach that is to be their ultimate reach and destiny. Each plant needs different compounds and nutrients, and to personify, you can see the two as human thoughts and other humans. Those that you work well with and promote your growth allow you to prosper and flower, where those that are bad for you stunt your growth and eventually allow you to die out. Jean and I started as seeds, and we have grown into a burger bar, and we will grow into a lot more. Who knows, maybe one day we will wilt, and that's what the creative destruction system asks for. It asks for something to be placed right in front of us and for us to get through it. And I'm certain that the next day, if we wilt, we will flower. Jean and I have cried, we've fainted, we've burnt out, we've punched holes in walls, we've screamed at each other, we've vowed to never talk to each other. We've done everything, but I know we will carry on because I know, and he knows, I can kind of see him in the crowd, but he knows that we need to wake up feeling as happy, albeit scared, every single morning going to what we call work. My friend Gabriel, who I respect more than most people in this entire world, who I made sit at the front, was recently asked at a lunch by a very pretty woman who we were all trying to impress. He actually sat in the middle of me and her, which I was not that happy about, Gabriel. But I forgive you. He was asked by this girl, what do you do? You know, like making small talk. And I was like paying full attention. I was like, I spent 4 days with Gabriel hearing the most amazing things I've ever heard in my life. Gabriel's answer was nothing. And so it got me thinking, my jaw was on the floor. It got me thinking, what does nothing actually mean? So nothing, in this instance, means something in relation to the normative capitalist structure that we find ourselves entwined in. Nothing means no job, and something means some job, or some kind of thing. And if I was in Gabriel's shoes at his stage, where he had spent 4 days telling me about this amazing forest program that he wanted to start, and his dreams and wishes, and has dreams and wishes that way surpass any kind of job that he could possibly get for himself, for the world, and for other people, if I was in Gabriel's shoes, my answer to the very pretty woman would have been, how much time do you have? So, to end, the world isn't trying to bury you. A common human understanding of it is. Your path, your journey is made up of your successes, your beliefs, your fears, your tears, your joys, your absolute everything. So take what you're given, take those and take what you're given, time and money, and create something beautiful. Grow up, grow sideways, grow in whichever way you do, but make sure to grow you.